This is Andrew for the Chosen Prime with the video review and overview of the ToyWorld Constructicons, the full set, the 6 members of the team. I will be going over their combined form here, this Masterpiece Scale Devastator, as well as doing some team kind of comparisons overall. If you're just interested in Devastator here, I do recommend just jumping ahead about 12 minutes. But I will be talking about a fix that I recommend you do for the leg connector that connects to shovel. But let's take a look at the team. So from left to right, we've got ToyWorld TWC01, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Their names would be Bulldozer, Unearth, Burden, Allocator, Shovel, and Concrete. We more commonly know them as Bone Crusher, Scavenger, Long Haul, Hook, Scrapper, and Mixmaster. So you can see that they barely fit on my setup here, but they look great as a team. They look like what you would hope Masterpiece Constructicons would look like. If you would like more details on individual bots, I would recommend looking at our previous videos that go over the transformations as well as the details of each one. But let's go ahead and look at some more comparisons for these guys. When these ToyWorld figures were originally announced, people had some reservations due to how they really didn't match some of the cartoon aesthetic as far as what you would expect Constructicons to look like, but there was something about the set that made it so that they look like Constructicons to me, and it wasn't until I recently dug out the full set of the Constructicons from a gift set from my childhood that I noticed that the ToyWorld figures take their homages from the toys for the most part, so you see that a lot of the toy design carried over into this new Masterpiece scale version of these characters. So let's go ahead and take a look at some closer up detail between the G1s and the ToyWorld figures. Here we've got Bone Crusher and Bulldozer. They both have green tread legs, and they have a scoop on their chest. There's detail here on the scoop that is homaged here on the ToyWorld version with the purple here. They have the same kind of head shape as far as advisor and this flat part of their head. Their weapons are designed similarly with kind of a scope up top. This detail behind the arm here replicates the sticker that was on the G1 toy. And just in general, the proportions between the two of these guys is the same. I will detour briefly to show off something that I missed on the original review of Bulldozer. Originally I had his arms kind of rotated down to a lower position like this. There's actually an inner rotation joint underneath the arms that lets you go ahead and you want to rotate it up and it'll lift his arms to a higher position to look a little bit more realistic. But it's nice to see this really nice update of Bone Crusher. Vehicle mode comparisons, you can see that ToyWorld took design cues from the G1 toy when making their version of Bone Crusher. It's a lot of nice updates to the original G1 toy. They do both have working front loader scoops here, and as a matter of fact, the ToyWorld one here actually has these little pegs here up top that are kind of exhaust that have no function on this toy, but they homage the little pegs that showed up on the original G1 toy. We've got Scavenger and Unearth. They both have purple tread legs. The sticker detail on Scavenger has got little gray feet on Unearth. The silver part of the chest with this little flap here homage the chromed part and the connector port that were on Scavenger. They both have roughly the same kind of head shape with this little flat crest and the little chin. They both have the same design type of gun. They both have the crane arm kind of floating off their back. There are these little yellow bits of detail and chevrons that match the sticker from the G1 version of Scavenger. And so this is a really nice update of the original version of Scavenger here in a larger, more detailed form. Vehicle mode comparisons, you can see that both power shovels look fairly the same, with the same design cues, same design elements, where they have canopies here on the side, their claws can move up and down, they both can rotate, and overall it's just a nice update here from ToyWorld of the G1 Scavenger toy. Long Haul and Burden, they both roughly have the same color scheme. As far as color layouts, they have green legs, silver or gray waist, green chest, and then purple arms. The details here on Burden kind of match where the stickers were placed on Long Haul. The heads are kind of the same, the way that this was just a flat panel and they kind of filled at the back of the head. They did the same thing with a little bit of flat panel back here on Burden. They both have roughly the same kind of design as far as their guns. They both have tires on their upper arms. And the same kind of just overall proportions between the two of these seem to match between Long Haul here and Burden. Vehicle mode comparisons, you can see that they both look like really nice dump trucks, and they share the same kind of overall design aesthetic across both of them. Just the one from ToyWorld is updated for Masterpiece collections with things like rubber tires and more detail. Here's Hook and Allocator. They both have the same kind of color layout with green legs, silver or gray thighs, a purple chest, and green arms. They both have these kind of green parts at their shoulders, kind of cover up around their head. They both have the same kind of head design. They both have this kind of like hat kind of brim on both of them. They both have canopies, driver's seat canopies on their left legs. Their guns are stylistically similar. If you wanted to, an Allocator, you could rotate down these wheels to kind of homage the wheel shape on G1 Hook. Their crane arms are the same, and you get some caution, kind of yellow and black gray caution detail throughout them. And kind of just overall, you can see that Allocator is a really good update of the G1 Hook toy. Vehicle mode comparison. Once more, you can see where they took design cues with multiple cockpits, lifting and raising crane arms, extension crane arms on both of them. They both can rotate at the back crane area, same number of wheels, and just overall the same kind of update of this original toy from ToyWorld here. ToyWorld's done a nice job of making a Masterpiece scaled hook. Here's Scrapper and Shovel. They also have the same layout with green legs, silver or gray thighs, purple chest, green arms, and then the scoop or shovel back on the back, both of their backs. Their heads have the same. This one had a flat piece on Scrapper's head, the same thing for this version of Scrapper. And a lot of this is kind of the overall design layout with the way the hips are kind of called out. Same kind of weapon, once more. The shovel kind of folding on their back, wheels in the same position. Roof canopy, and just overall, Shovel takes his cues and is just a nice beefier, bigger version of G1 Scrapper. Vehicle mode comparison. It's obvious that they both use the same overall payloader design between the two of them. Same kind of overall boxy shape. And as far as utility, as far as the way that the scoops and the shovel here in the front can lift on both of them. This one can hinge a little bit more. They both have this canopy, but then you can just see where ToyWorld was going with their design of these Constructicons. Finally, here's Mixmaster and Concrete. They've got the same layout as usual. They both have kind of this detail here, the flat parts of the legs, green arms, purple chest. The heads are kind of the same. They took homage from kind of the angled bits on Mixmaster to kind of make this Decepticon-esque kind of visor or forehead crest for Concrete. Similar weapons. They both, the chromed missiles that you can plug into on Mixmaster, they have these that are on this version, they have on Concrete, and then, matter of fact, how these actually are spring-loaded, whereas these were neutered in the US version. Mixing drum in the same spot, both green mixing drums to match the toy. There will be a purple mixing drum for Concrete coming out, but you can see that Concrete is a faithful update of G1 Mixmaster. Vehicle mode detail, you can see that they are roughly the same design as far as the cement truck with the front cab in the front. They both have purple windows, colored grille. They have the overall same color design of green, purple, green, green barrels in the back, a loading point at the top here. Just the ToyWorld one here, Concrete, is just an upgraded version for your Masterpiece collection. Of course, you do get the benefit of the rolling drum. Here they all are in their construction vehicle modes. We've got a bulldozer, we've got a power shovel, we've got a dump truck, we've got a crane, we've got a payloader, and we've got a cement truck. They all look really great. In this mode, it looks like a team of consistent construction-based Decepticons, and they look phenomenal side by side like this. And then here's the team of both the G1s and the ToyWorld Constructicons in their vehicle modes. And you can see that it's kind of an upgrade across the board for all of these Constructicons. Here's a team comparison with the Combiner Wars Devastator. This is the US release of Devastator with lighter, brighter green and no weapons or additions. You can see that the color layouts across the two sets of Constructicons are essentially the same, with the greens and purples in the same spot. Of course, this green is a bit more neon, a bit more lime, versus it's a bit more muted on the ToyWorld figures, which those match the G1 toys a little bit better. The head sculpts on the Combiner Wars figures match the cartoon decos a little bit better. Of course, the odd one out is Combiner Wars Long Haul, who neither matches the toy nor the cartoon all that well, and that's mostly due to him having to have the hips for Devastator built into him. The other main difference is the height between these two sets. The Combiner Wars figures are maybe 1 inch to 2 inches shorter than the ToyWorld comparables, but you can see here how stylistically the two sets look in robot mode. Comparing the teams in vehicle mode, here you can see that they're roughly the same kind of vehicles across the board. There are some outliers, Long Haul, who's large due to the combiner ports, and then Mixmaster, who is the he's backwards from the way that we normally would want to have him displayed. Taking a brief detour here to show off the boxes and how when they're put side by side they make one giant landscape piece of artwork. You can see that you get Unicron on the left ones, you get a bit of Cybertron on the right, and then you also get some grid in the background. The only kind of issue with you want this kind of display is actually 50 inches wide by about a little over than a foot tall to display, at least for this display mode. The alternative is to rotate the boxes so that you get these pictures all lined up to make one giant image. Of course, this is their version of Devastator called Constructor. This display is about 26 inches wide by about 24 inches tall. And both of these kind of options you have for kind of laying these boxes out are nice little bonuses that come with the set. To give you an idea how the ToyWorld Constructicons fit with other Masterpiece Decepticons, here's a scene with Masterpiece Starscream, Apollyon is Masterpiece Megatron, and we've got Soundwave. I think this shows off how well the ToyWorld Constructicons fit with other Masterpiece Decepticons. They can hold their own as far as design, aesthetic, and kind of build on your Masterpiece shelf as Masterpiece Decepticons. Going into detail about the fix and concern that some folks have had is that this particular part here, that's the connector port that slides into Shovel or Scrapper, it's meant to these are meant to slide into the channels on Scrapper's top here. The problem is there's just a little bit too much material here that when you try to push it on all the way, it ends up getting stuck and you're going to have a heck of a time removing it. And so what it looked like to me is that there's just too much, there's a little bit of mold kind of expansion here where these parts here and kind of the undersides, there's just too much material and it's just too tight of a fit. And so what I and some other folks have done is we've sanded down these panels here as well as the inner channels. You can kind of see they're like kind of like long T's. And when I just took a tool, like here's just a sanding stick, and I sanded these edges, and then I have a smaller sanding stick where I came in and I did the undersides of these T's as well as the inner part just to kind of remove enough material. It took me maybe 15-20 minutes to kind of do it. I would sand a little bit and then I would go ahead and test fit, and it eventually got to the point where it felt still snug enough to be a connector port. But I sand test. Some people have gotten some good results with some lubrication, some like shock oil. I'm also putting on these spots. But that's what I recommend you do. Don't force it. If you force it, I doubt you'll ever be able to take off the scrapper or shovel leg here without taking it apart. I now have all the team members in their combined modes. I've got Burden here with the legs attached, and I've got Shovel kind of set up to be a leg. So we take these two T channels and we slide them up, forward, onto Shovel here, and it'll lock into place. Again, this is a very, very tight joint, so I do recommend sanding. And there are these tiny little panels here that rotate around. You can see these two peg holes. These are actually on springs, so they lift out just ever so slightly, and you want to rotate them around, and it may take a little bit of effort, and they're not completely necessary if you don't want to push it. But rotate them around and then we'll sandwich them around. I'll come and I'll do that one a little bit later. This one's difficult on mine, but this one on this side is a bit easier to do. Just lift up enough to kind of clear these two ports and it'll just lock into place. It's just an additional connector. Seriously, this part right here on Shovel, just by sliding into those channels is enough. But these are just an extra little bonus to kind of help do the detail. And then we'll finish up this one. Just kind of lifting it up to rotate it around over that port and lock it down. And that leg is all ready to go. We'll now come to concrete, who's much easier to attach. There are two kind of smaller T-channels and a kind of hole slot here that match these channels, as well as this kind of hooked piece on the top. So we just come and we start the T-channels and then just push back, and then that little hook will kind of lock in place. Again, much easier. And then these panels, again, they lift up on tight springs, and these are much easier than the ones that are on shovel. And then just slide it around and do the same thing for the other side. I'm mostly struggling on this stuff because I'm having to actually hold this guy in the air as I'm transforming him. He ends up being 6 pounds 12 ounces once we fully transform him. But we'll now move on to the upper torso. We come to allocator. Make sure that the chest wing is on. It's a lot easier to put on now when you hook it around and lock it here. Make sure that those 4 gray connector ports are all flipped out. And then I would actually recommend installing the head, because the head actually helps hold the halves together just even further. But those 4 kind of pegs here match similarly 4 kind of peg holes on Burden. The ones in the back are the most kind of challenging because they're on rotation hinges, but it is pretty simple just to kind of come here and push it all down. And then we come to the back, and the back arms, the feet here, peg into the back of allocator from Burden, and then these toes also they peg in. And that is the upper torso. Now into the arms. We'll bring in Bulldozer here with the arm attached and the connector port visible. If you look at this connector port, there are kind of channels on this. There's 3 sides that have a channel on them. And I'll actually show you, there's one side that's flat that doesn't have the channel. And you can see that how I'm actually rotating this. When you actually do install it, one thing I've kind of noticed is I don't recommend kind of using it as a standard ratchet to twist, but pull outwards, rotate, and then let it go and let it reset, and then it'll hold the arm. So that's kind of how I recommend posing and twisting the arm. And just once it's in there and locked, pull out to kind of release that spring, move the teeth, and then lock it back into position. That seems to work the best in my experience. So we come to allocator, and we flip up on this port to open up the channel. Again, the flat part that doesn't have a channel slides into the top. And then we just collapse down on the part here on allocator to lock it fully into place. And there is his right arm and onto the left. Bring on unearth in his arm mode with the limb attached. Make sure that this port, again, the flat edge is rotated towards the top. Open up this panel on allocator to expose the channel. Slide the arm in that connector port through the channel and lock it back down. Extend these wings here, and we've got Constructor here in this massive Masterpiece Devastator mode. Go ahead and turn the light on in his head, push the button on the back, and here we've got Constructor fully combined. Taking a look at some detail here, you can see that there's a whole lot of great detail kind of throughout the upper torso here. It's quite impressive. He does hold together very securely in this mode. He is heavy. He can be top heavy due to him being, 6 pounds 12 ounces. He's a very, very large and imposing figure. But the joints, in his hips and everywhere else, shows opposability here in a little bit, can hold him up just fine. He's not like he's going to topple over at the ankles or his waist or anything like that. It's just kind of getting him so he's balanced on his individual limbs. But he's just really menacing here in this combined mode. Here's a quick 360 of his midriff and his hands. Again, very clean, not a whole lot of kibble. And when all things considered, just very, very impressive work here from ToyWorld. And here's some leg detail. Again, very much reminiscent of what Devastator looked like. A lot of secure connections, a lot of secure support. and just, you know, quite a fine Masterpiece Devastator we've got here. As far as posability here for Constructor in his combined form, his head can twist left and right. He can look up and down. If you want to, you can push this little lever on top of his head here to put his visor down to get his visor or sunglasses, if you'd like that instead. This chest wing here can angle up and down. If you need to cover certain parts, you can also go in and out. These little guns here move forward and back. He does have a waist swivel that is not ratcheted, but then he does have an ab crunch, a 2-ratcheted ab crunch that you can use for posability if you so choose. These leg flaps here, they can move out of the way, and you can see, and he's got them on the front and the back, and they can pivot to the sides if you need them to, and up and down. And here you can see where his hip is. He's got a very strong ratchet, inward and outward, and you can pull his leg up quite far. His knee, the knee bend, is actually part of the part that came with burden. You can see that it splits, and so you can almost get a double jointed knee, and it's all ratcheted. He does have a thigh rotation. The feet themselves can pivot side to side with the part, the waists that were on the individual bots. They do have a bit of toe articulation. Both of them can kind of twist forward and back. Shovel here can actually rotate, and he can twist as well, so he's got a little bit more options as far as posability for that part. As far as the arms, again, you can, when you want to rotate it forward, pull outwards on that spring, lift up, and let go, and it'll hold in whatever position you want. So just pull, lift up, get the teeth, and let go. There is another ratchet joint in here that lets you ratchet it inwards and outwards. I'll show that here. You can go up with it and inwards. As far as the arms, they do have a bicep swivel. There is a ratcheted part here, as well as the hand itself has got the ratcheted bits, so you can get almost double jointed arms or elbows. The hands are on a plug-in joint. They can rotate, but they also can ratchet inwards and outwards with the ratchet here. The fingers are individually jointed. You can display them. You can turn this thumb. If you want to install the gun, you just take the peg on the gun and it fits into the slot into his hand securely. Wrap the fingers around, move the thumb up. Probably the best hands I've ever kind of come across on a figure like this. His hips actually have a channel. You can kind of see it here, that if you want to, you can move the pelvis forward and back if you need to balance them a specific way. You know, they kind of thought of everything as far as the legs there. The hands here can be switched out for drills. So the purple buttons here, you would press to release the hand, and you take one of the drills that came with one of the hands, and you can plug it into that place. And then, you know, just like you would hope the G1 did with the drill bit here, you can actually have, if you press the button, it'll fire out the drill bit hand. Just a lot of excellent posability options here with Constructor. So let me get him into some dynamic poses to kind of show off what he can do. Here's an example of the range of posability you can get out of Constructor here. With his ab crunch, his double jointed knees, and the way that you can kind of punch the ground here kneeling. His ratchets in his arms are strong enough to hold up these heavy arms, and you can see him reaching out here. If you'd like to, you could, you know, easily have him pose this way on your shelf or your display. It's impressive what ToyWorld's able to do here with this combined figure, considering how heavy he is. One quick note, these pieces here, when you're bending the knees kind of past the halfway point, make sure that when you turn it back that this point folds inward versus outward, or else you won't be able to fully close the leg. Here's an example pose where he's lunging forward. He's able to kind of take all this weight that's up on the top here and hold the pose due to his ab crunch and the way that his knees bend and the way that the ratchets are still strong enough to kind of hold him up. And so you can kind of see that he looks really menacing here next to these Masterpiece Autobots that he's attacking. Comparing ToyWorld's Constructor to J1 Devastator, you can see that the new updated third-party Devastator from ToyWorld is matched stylistically to the one from the G1 toy, from the color and layout and everything else, just to a much larger, more Masterpiece-sized scale. I mean, G1 Devastator is barely as tall as just even one of the bots, and as a matter of fact, if I take the gun off here from Constructor, you can see that even just Constructor's gun is almost the height of G1 Devastator. Scaling up, here's the very first third-party Devastator. This is TFC Toys Hercules with the Rage of Hercules add-on kit, which add these little arm blocks as well as a new gun. At the time, this was an amazing version of Devastator, and for classic collections it is. There's still a lot of nice fun things with this set, but it pales in comparison nowadays to what ToyWorld's released here with Constructor. Scaling up a little bit more, we've got Combiner Wars Devastator next to ToyWorld's Constructor. You can see that they're both these really large and massive sized combiners, some of the largest figures that are available. They both are a Masterpiece kind of sized Devastator, but the one from ToyWorld, as far as the fit and finish, the polish, the design, paint, and kind of everything all together, I would feel that the ToyWorld version is such a much better version of what I would hope a Masterpiece version of Devastator would look like. And finally, scaling up to my largest figure in my collection, this is Generations Metroplex next to Constructor, and you can see how they kind of sit side by side as far as height. It's just amazing how large ToyWorld has made this version of Devastator for our Masterpiece collections. Here's Constructor with some Masterpiece Decepticons. You got Apollyon, Starscream, and Soundwave. And this kind of shot really just shows to me that this is a Masterpiece version of Devastator. It just looks, this shot looks amazing when you see all these guys side by side. Some final thoughts here on the final combination for ToyWorld's Constructicons Constructor. I am kind of just in awe of this set once it's all put together. They're excellent as individual bots in both of their modes, but then once you get them kind of built into this Masterpiece scale Devastator, it is a Masterpiece Devastator to me. It will be my Masterpiece Devastator for my collection. ToyWorld kind of did an amazing job with these figures. There are some slight issues with a few of them, but the final product is just utterly amazing to me. 4 of the bots are currently available from the Chosen Prime. The other 2 will be back for pre-order soon. If you like what I've been showing off here, I would highly recommend this set. It's kind of one of my favorites this year. So take care.